Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Security Squawk podcast. I'm Bryan Hornung here with Reginald Andre and Randy. Bryan, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well.
What's happening? All right, guys. This week we got 3 stories that all come back to one uncomfortable idea, and that's the way your business isn't. The business isn't a clever piece of software anymore, right? We just talked about that in the green room, how everything is just kind of expanding out there with AI. And this world we're living in is really becoming down to the people you trust, right? When it comes to building AI tools, when it comes to cybersecurity, and really just everyone around there who's involved in the systems, right? That help us run our businesses and do the things that we do. We're going to poke holes in a lot of things today to show you, like, support from inside your own businesses, from governments that aren't supporting or aren't, speaking the same language that they put in the laws when the government's, in charge of things like hospitals and making sure hospitals are running right. We're not seeing that stuff happening, and we're going to highlight that today, right? So hackers, we're going to talk about hackers walking out with fingerprints from hospitals and 6 million people. Randy, you're going to bring us about the Carnival breach, which sounds simple on the surface, sounds like what kind of information could a leisure company have on you? Well, you travel to foreign countries, so they probably have a lot, and we're going to get into that today as well. And Andre, you're going to close this out with one thing that I think every business owner should peek up from their desk and pay attention to. So we'll get into that as well, because it's a new take on kind of how we look at cybercrime. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the future attacks, right? So welcome to Security Squawk. I'm going to get into it with my show, or with my topic, this New York Health Hospital story, guys. Hackers stole fingerprints and medical data on 1.8 million people in the state of New York. And I don't think anybody's really talking about this story. So, at the end of the day, you got, a major hospital in New York City, right? And they have a vendor who they trusted, and unfortunately that failed them. And the result of that is 1.8 million people's information being spewed out on the dark web. And now everybody's scrambling to say, what the heck happened here, right? So the hospitals, they did the notifying. The hospitals' names are in the headlines, but the door was left open by somebody else. And that's something that we've kind of been talking about on this show for the last 6 to 8 to 9 months, right? If you guys got to remember, if your customer data lives with a vendor, their bad nightmare, their problem becomes your breach notice, becomes your public relations nightmare. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing here. So the bigger problem I have here, guys, is, like, we talk about data breaches and information being stolen all the time, right? So security numbers. If you really want to, and things got that bad, you can get your social security number changed, right? You can get your credit card number changed. You can get your bank account numbers changed. You can change a lot of information that when it becomes public, you can change that, right? What you can't change is your biometrics, your DNA, your fingerprints, right? And when that stuff gets out there, that's not changeable, right? And I don't know if you guys agree with this statement or not, but at the end of the day, prior to AI, I would think, like, that 23andMe breach, the DNA information, the fingerprints being out there, guys, not such a big deal. But now that we can see what AI can do, I'm getting severely concerned as to why somebody would want fingerprint data in the first place, right? And what do they see as what they can do with that in the future? And maybe, Randy, your brain tends to work a little bit better than mine in that sense, in terms of what can happen down the road with fingerprint data. So I'm going to bring you in and kind of say, hey, what do you think here? What do you think behind?
This one kind of makes me, it upsets me. As soon as you started reading it, we started thinking about it, because why do they have fingerprint data stored on the servers? The fingerprint data should be where it's used, and then that authenticates who you are, but it should authenticate who you are with something on your device that then sends back to the server where all this stuff was leaked. That sends that back. That shouldn't be stored by the government, shouldn't be stored by hospitals or whatever. There's ways to do this where it doesn't have to get leaked. And this kind of data needs to always be treated like you got to ask your question, what would happen if all of this got leaked? And so then it shouldn't be handled in such a way that it can. So this is very disconcerting that they stored them like this. You know, they could have even encrypted them, take your fingerprint, do some kind of, hash or something like that with some kind of salt on their side or whatever, where they make it unique to you but anonymous and useless out in the world. And that's not what they did. So very disconcerting. That's my thoughts.
The other
Bryan.
disturbing thing about this is New York's public hospital system, right? This isn't private hospital. And again, it goes back to my opening where I'm like, hey, look, the government's out here saying like, got to do this, got to do that, cybersecurity, compliance, regulations. Yet we find our government getting hacked all the time. Like, how do you expect private businesses, private industry, private nonprofits to listen to the government when the government doesn't eat their own dog food?
Yeah.
Any thoughts there, Andre?
No, I mean, I just kind of want to go back to how we're talking about why did they have this information for so long? If you ever go to the TSA checkout line, they take a picture. Now, if we want to believe it, that's another thing, but they take your picture, but they tell you it's only to quickly check the date. It just basically says it's temporary. It's going to be deleted that same day. So if I'm an employee of a hospital, I understand. Let's do a background check to make sure that, I'm not pretending to be somebody or a criminal record or whatever that case is. But the hospital should have had an agreement with this third-party vendor, because we're talking about the hospital, but it's a third-party vendor. If I was a hospital, I would have said this is the vendor. Like, I would have put them on blast as well and say, hey, don't just talk about me. We hired this company to do this, and we trusted them with the data. So, but if you are a company that is doing fingerprint, and what company for the most part doesn't, right? You hire a third party to do that. You now need to look at those terms and conditions to say, look, when I'm done with it, when we're done and you verify that this person is hireable, you need to delete it within 7 days. And in addition to that, are they selling the data? Like, why have all of this information for all this time? So that's another thing too, is, are they using it in marketing the data, or, just using like, hey, this amount of people are applying? Like, what are they doing with this data that they have to store for so long? So this vendor really needs to be put on blast as well, because it's not it's the hospital's responsibility, but not necessarily their fault, I would say.
Yep. And at the end of the day, I mean, two things that I want to point out about this. I'll say it again. We have no idea what they're going to do with this fingerprint data in 5 years. One other odd detail that I found as I was researching this, guys, is along with those fingerprint images, precise geolocation data was also embedded in those, right? So most people think it came from location tags baked into like when they hit when they registered their finger, things like that. When they hit the machine, like when that image is taken, it also knows where in the world that device was when that finger was put on that sensor to read that fingerprint, right? And that this is something like the reason I say this is because like this happens a lot where data gets created and maybe the company doesn't understand fully what's in that data set, right? The hospital has said they didn't realize they were holding geolocation information along with the fingerprint data. So that was news as you're learning, when the lawyers dig in, they dig in deep, right? Hey, oh, whoa, look, this is over here too, right? And as they're bringing this stuff out in some way through an investigation or through discovery, that's when these companies are finding this out. And, they're like shocked, like, oh my God, like we didn't know that was happening either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you got to be careful, right? Because apparently the companies that are making the software aren't telling you everything that they're up to.
Yep.
And you're not asking the questions. So
Yep.
what are we learning here? That we probably
just
need to ask better
outsource
questions when we hire our
Yeah,
vendors,
exactly.
right? Instead of hiring our uncle's friend, we might want to hire a company that does things the right way. And there's a lot of that going on out there, right? See it in our government right now with drone purchases, right? Giving contracts to our friends and not the companies that probably deserve it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys, move right along. Carnival here. Cruise ship line. Randy, this is your story, right?
Yep.
So what's happening here? Carnival Cruise, obviously big ship outfit, one of the biggest in the world. Had a little bit of a problem. What happened?
Yeah, so they had a breach. Once again, it is Shiny Hunters, who we've mentioned a lot over the last 6 months. I haven't seen exact news. Was it Salesforce or not? But that's who Shiny Hunters has been getting into a lot lately. But in this particular case, they took things that included dates of birth, email addresses, names, physical addresses, phone numbers, and the big kicker, government issued IDs. And so we're talking 6 million. And here's the crazy thing is, according to official reports, this was one account, one employee, that Shiny Hunters was able to use their skills with social engineering, where either they're faking a voice, they're pretending to be IT or something along those lines. They're trying to basically make you think they're someone that they're not. And it's usually in a conversation, like on a phone call. But anyway, using those skills, they were able to commandeer one account. And when they got into that one account, then they were able to get 6 million records out of there. It kind of makes me wonder, though, like, I know the last one that we talked about, pretty egregious. Why are you storing biometrics in the first place? And then let's say you had to, which you don't. Why are you storing them long term? And then that begs the question here: how long had these government IDs? How long had those been stored here? Is there not a better way to do that? Is there not a better way that would make your customers more secure? That's kind of what really jumped out at me about this, is not so much the government IDs, but the fact that it was one employee account that they breached. I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are on this.
Man, this is a $26 billion company. March 2020 breach, August 2020 ransomware, December 2020 they had a ransomware, June 2021 they had a breach, and now here we are with another breach. So they have security teams, they have the best tools, they have the budget.
Sounds like they're having a carnival in the IT department or a carnival.
Yeah, man, they're using their friends and family discounts to not work, but this is totally unacceptable.
Yeah. Good point. They've been hit multiple times. 2022, regulators hit them on a $5 million penalty. And then there was a $1.25 million multi-state settlement. I mean, how do these companies stay in business? Like, Jesus. I mean, like, paying all these fines.
Buying. We keep on buying, man.
Like,
We're buying and paying the settlement.
Crazy. I mean, so anyway, I agree with you, Shiny Hunters. Sounds like Salesforce again. They're not saying. I can't find it anywhere. Interesting thing. They broke in on April 10th. It looks like the theft was confirmed on the 22nd. They recognized something was amiss on the 14th. The confirmation was the dark web leak, and then customers got told at the end of May. So basically, your information was already on the dark web. You could have found it yourself before you got notified from the company.
Yeah.
So it's just not good that it's playing out that way, folks. Like that's why Randy has that reaction, right? It's not good that we're able to go out and get, information that's public to us, that a company should be well ahead of this. Like, hey, this happened. Your information could be exposed. You're talking almost 2 months where people's information was exposed. And a lot can happen in that 2 months with those people getting scammed by the people who have this information, which is anybody who wants to go in the dark web and get it.
Yep.
It's public. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And we just dealt yesterday with a physical fraud where somebody's government ID was most likely known by the bad guys. And then they basically pretended to be government officials and were saying there was a back penalty on something that was owed and trying to get the people to go drop money off at a Dropbox, cash only. Literally, their ID could have been leaked through this, because I know they like to travel and stuff. They've probably been on a cruise. Literally could have been leaked through here, and didn't involve any kind of cybersecurity or anything like that. It was just a straight up fraud over the phone. But still, they got suspicious and said, "Well, let me call my lawyer." And then they're like, okay, put them on hold and blah, blah, blah. They never came back.
I'm just going to the 6 million people, right?
Yes.
What are the chances that 1, 2, 10 of those 6 million people are maybe dealing with something with the IRS right now?
Exactly.
Right? They're in the middle of dealing something with the IRS. They're in the middle of buying something and it's coming via UPS, right? They have a Chase credit card, right? They just happen to be one of those people who is dealing with a situation right now, right? I just filed, a lot of people just filed their taxes, right? First 3 months of the year are probably the biggest time that most people get scammed with IRS scams.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you get a call in August, you're like, it's August. I filed my taxes 6 months ago. I'm on vacation. Leave me alone. But if it's April, like, oh, fuck yeah, I just filed my taxes. Why are they calling me? First off, the IRS would never call you, but people don't think that way. They're like, oh, yeah, I got to answer that call. I had a call come up on my cell phone the other day. It said IRS. It was a 973 number. I'm like, that ain't the IRS. So I didn't answer it. Right? They're very good at spoofing the caller ID too, right? Mm-hmm. So just because it says IRS on your phone, that can be spoofed, that can be faked. So be aware. I
wouldn't answer either way.
And this is what they do, guys. They go on the dark web, they find some information, they put your name into a machine that starts calling these phone numbers, and when you pick up, that's when the scammer on the other end of the line picks up too. So it's all automated. They're just going through 6 million names until they get somebody to pick up on an IRS call. Air quotes.
Yep.
Right? This is happening every day. Guys, companies, nasty people, mean people, scammers are going on the dark web. They're finding this information and they're coming up with a scam. Hey, let's run these 6 million names and numbers through our little IRS program that fakes people and thinking it's the IRS calling them.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, my company markets to companies who we think want to do IT services. It's literally the same process. You send out emails, you send out text messages, and you hope they respond.
And we got to put the word AI in there, and AI is making it much easier
100%.
to get a robot voice, or not necessarily a robot.
AI is just making everything easier, Andre.
Yeah.
AI is just making it easier to find the right people. Maybe I can go through this 6 million and find out who's dead and alive using AI in about 3 seconds, right? Maybe I can go through this list and say, who's in the United States that I can scam with IRS, right? Maybe I can run it against some kind of soft credit pool and say, okay, tell me which people have good credit and which ones don't.
And part of reason why I brought up the offline scam, if you will, was that this data, it appears, was out there on the dark web for what, a month and a half before the people were ever notified. Right. And, you know, if they were notified a couple days ago and they read the notification, now they know somebody's got their ID. Right. Is probably not the DM, or may not be the DMV or the IRS or whatever.
100%. That's the point. It's like the company's got to get the heads up to these people. So when they get the call on their phone from the IRS or the Department of Motor Vehicles, they go, wait a minute, you know, but without that notification, there's no wait a minute. It's oh yeah, I'm buying a car right now. I need to talk to these people. Right. And then next thing you know, you're talking to somebody who goes, oh, I'm so stupid. I should have known better. I can't believe I fell for that. Literally the conversations that I have with people on a weekly basis who get scammed and hacked and who want to tell me about it because they know what I do for a living. And that's reality. And that happens all the time. So just don't let it be you. Be aware, be vigilant, and make sure you understand that our government right now and companies, when it comes to this stuff, don't really have your best interests at heart. All right, moving right along. Because this one's interesting, Andre. Good find here, sir. Very interesting story here. I'll let you take it away. But one breach can start with one polite phone call, as we mentioned, right? And you have control of who calls you and who doesn't call you, right? But let's get into this story, Andre, where we're talking about a phishing email and a fake IT phone call. When they don't work, this crew will actually send humans to your office. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I had a hard time believing it. So we have the SRG, which stands for the Silent Ransom Group, and they're impersonating IT personnel. And there's right now the FBI saying that they're targeting law firms. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that, I mean, man, this is a really good idea. Because what you basically do is you do that phone call. You say, hey, this is Mike from IT. We detected a suspicious activity on, your workstation. We're going to send a technician to verify your computer isn't compromised. Let the reception know. 20 minutes later, professional person arrives. They got a polo shirt, a badge, a laptop. They know about the name. They know the office location, and they have this little trusty USB drive in their hand. And the reception is expecting them. The employee is expecting them, and nobody's thinking twice. So now, as I'm starting to think, we're thinking, we always want to make sure we have the firewalls and the EDRs and the MFAs to stop. But what happens when the employee lets the person in? And what I'm thinking is like most businesses, if you're walking into office building, there's cameras there. If you're walking into the individual person's suite, there's a camera there. There may be a sign in where you got to take a pen and, like with today's technology, how do you just have somebody, you're face to face with that person. And I think that's a very risky thing for these cyber criminals to actually say, we're going to go in and impersonate ourselves, because all they have to do is put that on the news and everybody's going to be like, yeah, that's Joe that did this crime. Well, it turns out what they most likely are doing is they're hiring gig workers. So the gig workers don't even know about the scam. So they may, I don't want to say, well, let's not say any of those companies, but there are companies where you can hire somebody for a task, and you can just say, hey, we have this office in this location. We're going to pay you $55 or whatever the dollar amount is. Go ahead and do this. They're going to be helping you, but just act as you're part of this company or third party, or, you just don't give them as much information and you go give them that task. So if they get caught, all they're going to say is, yeah, I spoke to this guy and this was his phone number and he's supposed to pay me. But that person really doesn't know how big this goes up the line. And I think that's probably what they're doing, and they're seeing that it's actually working.
Wow.
Yeah. That is super crazy. And that there's a lot of the small time fraud uses, I'm talking like the Indian scammers and using AnyDesk on your computer and all that stuff. A lot of that on this side of the pond relies on those gig workers to go pick up packages, take them here, take them there. And it's almost like now the ransomware people have taken a page off the playbook of the Indian scammers and, have basically combined that into bringing in, gig workers or whatever. It's a little disturbing, man. Thanks for walking us through that.
Yeah.
So just a little bit on the group behind this, right? They're Russian linked, and they've been doing this as far as the FBI knows. They've been doing this to U.S. law firms for about 3 years now.
Wow.
And it's only been the remote scam. Like, hey, we're here. We're from IT. We're the call-in ones, and we've covered that on the show before, right? We know of MGM got hacked that way, right? Where these groups call in and say they're from IT, and somebody gives them access to the machine, right? So this is the same group. They're literally just sending people to the door because the call-ins aren't working. So let's try sending people to the door and say, hey.
Yep.
So if you didn't call for IT and you didn't ask for somebody to come on site, you got to be aware that this is happening, right? Because in our world, you would know there's a process you go through. You would know somebody's coming on site and why they're coming.
Right.
In these cases, somebody's just showing up saying, hey, I'm here from IT. You have a problem. And they're like, oh, okay, you're here from IT. Great. There's no process for that company to check. Now, let's talk about who's vulnerable here, guys. Right? Any company that uses an MSP is vulnerable to this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could have a badge made up with my company name, your company name on it, and walk in and say, I'm from here. This is 100% why we don't put our clients' names on our website. We get marketing people to come to us all the time. Oh, you got to put your client and get testimonials on your website. Yeah, no, thanks. We've done that, and we see what happens when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've tried that marketing angle. It doesn't bring in any business. And now people know who I'm doing business with. And then one or two things happen from that. The hackers try to get to them, or my competitors try to get to them.
Right.
But ain't nobody going on my website saying like, oh, let's do business with them because there's Joe from ABC company singing their praises. It just doesn't work like that. And we know that. So that's marketing, teaching from the stage and not knowing what actually works out there. It sounds good on paper, but you actually do it in an MSP, it can backfire a lot of different ways. And this is one of them. The other vulnerability I see out there is companies that are spread out throughout the country, throughout the world, right? And they have IT centralized somewhere in a location, right?
Yep.
And you just don't know the IT people and how the process works, right? So you're just Sally who works at the front desk, and this dude just walked in and he's got a badge of the company saying he's in IT. Does she know to call and check and make sure, or is she just supposed to let him walk through the door? Well, she's never been trained. what to do, she's going to do whatever she decides is right. And she doesn't think she's doing anything wrong. Now, it depends on the personality. You got a really nice lady there who likes to help people out, probably going to let the guy go through. You got a hawk who's like skeptical of everything. She might be asking questions like, who are you? And you're not getting past here.
Right.
But I wouldn't want my company's security to rely on whether my front desk person is having a good day or not.
Right.
And that's really the risk I see. You guys see any other risks besides those two? Those are the two major ones, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the USB, that should always be blocked by default. But even now, even newer laptops, or if you have a Mac, I guess, right, Randy? I don't think they even come with USBs anymore. So, okay, fine. No USB port. That catches the guy off guard. He just goes to a website, a tiny link, and then he types that in and downloads it. So even if you don't have the USB, they can still get into that. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yep. Yeah, because this particular scam requires somebody putting something in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these guys also rely on as part of this. Like if your systems are locked down, like Andre's describing, harder for them to pull this off, right? If your systems are locked down, meaning like somebody gets up from their seat and then a minute later that screen locks,
right.
It's going to be a lot harder for these guys to do what they do because they got to be able to log into a system. Yep. If they can't log into a system, their next best option is to stick a flash drive in there and hope your computer, reads that or does something with that when they plug it in, right? If you can block all that stuff, you remove any chance of these guys being successful, even if they walk past the front desk person.
Yeah, and I know we got to wrap up, but one more thing was your government is next on this list because governments typically have to bid out for the smaller cities and things like that. They use MSPs and they have to bid out these MSPs, and all of that is public record as far as who that MSP is. And a lot of times because I've done it before, the MSP has to also list their top clients or clients in similar aspects. So that MSP is now putting in public records who are their clients. And a lot of times you'll have 10 MSPs go for this one bid. So I just thought about it now. I one time submitted an application for a municipality, and I had to put some of my top clients on there as far as references and stuff like that. So that's going to be another way that these guys are going to do that, especially if these governments have portals. AI can just read these portals, grab the information it needs, and it's got it.
Yep. All right, cool. Different angles, different ways this stuff can all play out, guys. 3 stories, 1 thread. Hospital that got robbed because a vendor trusted got robbed first. And then a cruise line that lost 6 million people's information because one employee trusted the wrong phone call. And then a crew of criminals walked straight into a law firm because someone trusted the face that said, I'm with IT. None of these were genius hacks. None of them were sophisticated. They were trust gone wrong, right? Given to the wrong vendor, the wrong caller, the wrong visitor, right? So the takeaway for executives this week that I want them to walk away with isn't to trust no one. It's to build one habit into your business, which is verify trust every time it matters and know exactly who's holding the data that can't be replaced. That is what executives need to start looking at when it comes to their data in their business in 2026. And we're failing to do it. And because we're failing to look at where the important data is and protect it at all costs, we just have massive amounts of stories to come onto this show with. So that's Security Squawk for this week. If this show is worth your time, please support us over at buymeacoffee.com/Security Squawk. We have every episode on our website, securitysquawk.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. If you happen to find us on those platforms, subscribe wherever you tune into us at. We do the audio version on Apple, Spotify as well. So if you got 30 seconds, just hit the thumbs up, leave us a review. Reviews are how other business owners find this show. I'm Bryan, here with Randy and Andre. We thank you. We'll see everybody next week. Stay safe out there. Take care.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.